Hi guys, so it's Monday. I'm gonna stick to my schedule, make a video every Monday. So I was trying to think of different things that I could talk about that would keep you guys interested, that some of you guys can relate to. And one of the things that came to mind that I thought a lot of people could relate to is being in an abusive relationship. And I can put my input on that because unfortunately I have been in abusive relationships, physical abuse, mental abuse, no sexual abuse. But for those of you out there, I will touch upon it if you're comfortable with that. And see where it goes. If like I said, if anybody wants to talk about it, you can message me. You have my Instagram, you can follow me, we could talk there, we could talk on here, whatever. So my personal experience with abusive relationships started when I was 15. I met this kid and I thought he was the love of my life. I was infatuated with him. And he was the biggest piece of shit in the world. He was a drug dealer. He was constantly cheating on me, and I would find out, but I would stay around. And he basically just used me for everything that I had because he wanted to feel like he had control over me, I guess. Because before I was with him, he dated a girl previously, and I was friends with her friend. Of course, this girl hated me because I was dating her ex-boyfriend. But her friend told me that this guy hit her before. And I was like, oh, there's no way, that's bullshit. She's just mad that he's with me. And, I was 15. So I didn't take any of that seriously. But the one time that I vividly remember it getting bad was he was at my house and he fell asleep because little did I know he was doing drugs and everything behind my back. And he passed out and his phone kept going off, like mine is now, but it's my sister. And I looked at his phone and it was this girl. And, I knew the password on his phone, so I read the conversation. And he's like, call my house phone, I'll meet you here, I'll meet you there. Oh, that was fun. So I woke him up and I said, get the fuck out of my house. And I was waiting for a friend to pick me up, so I was outside. And I was sitting in front of my house, and he comes walking out, and he's like, I want to explain myself, it's not what you think. And I was like, get away from me. And he wouldn't leave me alone. And at the time, as you guys know, I used to drink a lot. I was drinking a beer. I wasn't drunk, I was just drinking a beer, waiting. And he took my beer, and he smashed it on the hood of my car. And then he picked me up by the shirt and slammed me against the garage door. And I had my hands around his throat trying to get him off of me. And he was just slamming me against the garage door, telling me to listen to him, but I was telling him to get off me. Then he finally backed up and he's like, let me just tell you what happened. I just want to explain, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't want to fucking hear it. Get away. We were screaming. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, screaming at each other. And my sister lived at home at the time, and her window was open, and she came downstairs, and she said, get the fuck out of here, I'm calling the cops. So, after that time, we didn't talk for a while. Then, we got back together. I was 17, he was 18, and we were arguing, and I was going to get a pack of cigarettes before I went to work. And I was driving home, and he was in his friend's car driving, and his friend was in the passenger seat. And we were on just a regular side street, and he pulls up next to me. And I had to stop because I was going to clip the car that was parked, and he pulled in front of me and slammed on the brakes. So I technically hit him. And thank God there was people down the block doing construction, because he got out of the car in such a rage and tried opening all of my doors. And when I went to lock the doors, I accidentally unlocked them. So he pulled me by my neck and pulled me out of the car and was screaming in my face, and I was screaming at the people down the block to call the cops. And they came over. It was like 6 or 7 construction guys. They came over and they pushed him away, and he got in the car and drove away, and they sat with me until the cops came. I gave a full report. He was arrested. I had an order of protection against him. Over. The other abusive relationship I was in was probably something that you would see in a Lifetime movie. I was dating somebody who had a kid, and I've known him since I was 14, and I started dating him when I was 23, and he was my best friend before any of this. So whatever he was going through, any drama in his life, anything he wanted to talk about, he would tell me, because me and him were like best friends. And then we were dating, and he moved in, and the kid was a sweetheart. There was nothing wrong with the kid. I raised the kid from when he was 2 until he was 4. And it was more of me and this guy. He didn't help my alcohol problem at all, because he drank just as much as I did. But we got into some serious fights. One time, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. The baby was sleeping, and we were up drinking, and he wanted to go get weed and use my car. And I told him no, because he was using my car for a week before that and got 7 fucking red light tickets. So I said, you're not using my car. I said, if you want to get weed, walk to go get it, or have it dropped off 3 blocks away and go get it. And he picked up his computer, like the monitor, and picked it up and smashed it on my floor. So that's when both of us started swinging at each other. And the baby woke up and was crying, and instead of him going to see his son, I went and took care of his son while he was pissed that he couldn't go get weed. There was another time that it sucks, because this is what happens when you spend a lot of your time drinking. You really don't remember. I forget exactly what we were arguing about, but he pushed me and I punched him, and when I punched him and I came back, he had his fist up already and hit me and broke my nose. And I was all swollen for days, and my mom was like, what the fuck did he do to you? Get him out of my house. And then that night, I had a good friend of mine pick me up, and I was just with her, and I was like, she's like, what the fuck is going on? And mind you, I was probably about 45 beers deep. And I was like, I don't know, I fucking hate him, blah, blah, blah. And then she went to drop me back off, and he's standing outside waiting for me to come home. Meanwhile, I have my mother who lives here and my brother who lives here, and there's a baby here. And he's standing outside screaming. So my friend said she was going to call the cops, and he went back inside. I slept, I think, at her house that night. I had to have, because I didn't go home until, I remember being home and him packing everything, like all the baby's stuff and his stuff, and not saying a word to me. And I was like, alright, well, if you want to leave, go ahead and fucking leave. And it was his son's birthday the next day, on October 27th. This is when my drinking got really bad. This is when my drinking was from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, but I didn't eat or drink anything normal. It was just alcohol. Excuse me. But I bought his son a toy, and he called me a cunt, and he took the toy that I bought his son and smashed it into a million pieces on my floor. And that broke my heart, because I taught his son how to count. I taught his son colors, and he sat there and played his computer and promised my mom every month he would give her rent, and he didn't do shit except cause a gigantic fucking headache in my life. And he still did. When I started dating the person I'm with now, he made a horrible Facebook post about me and degraded me and called me every name under the sun, and just being a typical fucking prick, basically. And the reason that I decided to bring this up is because I went and saw a psychic, and she told me, I saw her yesterday and today, and she did her meditation last night, and she told me that she saw him, and he had the darkest energy she's ever seen on a human before. So, it's good riddance to him forever, because, I feel bad that he has such a problem, because he can't control his anger, and he does have a son who loves him, but he's better off just leaving everybody the fuck alone. But those were really the only two really abusive relationships I've been in. The other ones were mostly just verbal fights. Most of the time I was drunk anyway, but knock on wood, the person I am with now, there's no abuse at all. There's not even, I don't think he's even ever called me a bitch, being serious. So I think I finally found the one for me that, if things, we don't see eye to eye with things, of course, because we're two different people, so we're going to butt heads, but we're not going to literally butt heads and fucking start punching each other in the face. But I remember, this was probably a couple years ago, there was that girl that was on the Dr. Phil show that said, oh, if your boyfriend beats you, it's because he loves you and he's willing to risk going to jail for you because he's putting his hands on you, and you're like his property and he's defending his property. That bitch is fucking insane. Whether you're a guy or a girl and you're in a relationship and your partner is hitting you, degrading you, or doing anything that you don't feel comfortable with, walk away, because it's not going to get better. The only thing that's going to get better is when you take yourself out of that situation. Like how I said in my self-harm video, there's always going to be a situation that you can pick apart and you can say, well, if I do this, I'll have a different outcome. If I do that, the outcome will be different. If you are in a situation where you're getting hit or you're being talked down to or you're even being sexually abused and you think it's okay, I'm here to tell you that it's not okay. It's not okay that you're letting it go on, and it's not okay. The person who's doing this to you is not okay. So if you know that you need out, you can get out. Do not be afraid to leave. And that's what most people think, that if they leave this person who is abusing them, that their abuse is only going to get worse. But there are so many things you can do to make sure that doesn't happen. You can get an order of protection. That way, if that person sees you anywhere and they try to contact you, you call the police, and the police have them within 5 minutes. They are there because they care about your safety, as well as I care about your safety. And I don't even know you guys, but I care about your safety because I've been that person who's been abused. I've been that person that's defended the person who was abusing me because I thought, oh, it was one time, it won't happen again, but it happens again. And it just gets worse and worse. But you can get an order of protection. You can just get you can just get the cops involved in any way you want. You can get a restraining order. You could tell family and friends, if you see him around or you see her around, let me know so I can get my stuff and I can go, because they're not right. And most of the people who are in abusive relationships think that, well, if I'm getting hit, I'm the one doing something wrong. Not saying you're in the right or in the wrong. You could have said something that triggered something, but there is absolutely no reason for somebody else to be putting their hands on you, or somebody else to be speaking down to you because they feel like they're in control of you, and they're not. Everyone is their own human being, and if somebody wants to do something, they have every right to do it. So if you want to go out, or you want to go see your friends, and your partner's saying no, and they're cursing you out, or they're hitting you over something like that, or even something major, and they're hitting you, or they're just physically destroying you and mentally and emotionally destroying you, you need to get out of that situation, because it's only going to go downhill. It's going to end up with, unfortunately, sometimes it ends up with the person killing the other person just because they didn't like what they were doing. And it all could have been avoided if the person who was being abused just said, I've had enough, and walked away and took the precautions that they needed to stay away from the person that's abusing them. And it's possible, because I've done it. Notice how every video I can say I've done it, because I've done it. That's why I make these videos, so you, whoever watches, can feel like you can relate, because whatever I talk about is the truth. That's why if you're going through something, I know exactly what you're going through, because I've been there. But I'm in a healthy relationship now. If I stayed with any of the two that abused me, I probably would have been hospitalized a couple times because of how physical it got. But either they walked away, or I walked away, or it was a mutual, fuck you, I'll see you never, fuck you, I'll see you never, and that was it. And I could tell my story about it, and I'm not proud of it, but that was my life for a little while. And I'm sure there's people going through it right now as I make this video. But you need to know that if you are that uncomfortable, you need to leave, and you can be safe when you leave. Don't be afraid that if you leave, something's going to happen, because the only thing that's going to happen is good. You're going to be able to breathe and be yourself, and you're not going to feel like yourself for a little while, just like coming off of any addiction, because you're so used to being with somebody, you know that person's not there anymore. But you'll feel the toxic and negative energy slowly start to leave you, and when all of that leaves you, you'll be yourself again, and you'll be happy. And that's all I'm trying to do with this whole YouTube channel and my whole weekly videos on, any topic, is just to make sure that at the end of the day, everybody knows that there's ways you can be happy. There's ways you can overcome things. It might not be the easiest thing to do, but if you want to be happy, everything takes a little bit of sacrifice. If you want to be happy about something, then you got to change a little bit. It's scary and it's hard, but it's worth it. So that was my, relationship abuse video. But if anyone is being abused and, you feel like you can't get out of it, like I say in every video, there are numbers to call. You can talk to somebody about it. You can go to the police about it. You can get back to your old self, because I did. Took me a while between abusive relationships and addiction and depression and anxiety. I was in a hole, but I got out of it. So if I'm able to do it, you guys can do it too. Whoever out there needs help, please don't hesitate to message me personally or just comment on the video, because I will give you any advice that you want to know that I did, or something that, I can refer you to do, because I don't want to see anybody hurt. I don't want to see anybody living this one life we have miserable, because what's the point? We're supposed to be happy, and we're all going to be happy one day at a time. I'll see you next week.